Good morning. Good morning. This is Doing Relationships Right. I'm Jennifer Hurvitz. I'm your host. Of course, every week I'm here doing my thing. And today I always say this, I'm so excited. I'm really excited. No, today I'm super excited for this guest, Dr. Emily Jamea. Did I say that right?
You did.
Yay! Is a sex and relationship therapist based in Houston. I used to live there. That's so funny. With over 15 years experience, she has helped thousands of people create connection and cultivate passion. Her new book, hold on. Here it is. There it is. Is it backwards? The new book,
Nope, that's
Anatomy of
perfect.
Desire, 5 Secrets to Create Connection and Cultivate Passion. When did this, it came out
No, it comes out November 5th.
November 5th. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay. You won't believe this. That's when your episode's going up.
Yay!
I'm so excited.
Beautiful.
Okay. Oh, this is so exciting. So I got a copy of before of you one. That's very,
You did, yes.
okay. Emily speaks internationally to a range of audiences, including educators, health and mental professionals, health and mental health professionals, corporate groups, and the general public. Her expertise has been featured in Oprah Magazine, CNN, USA Today, NBC, and more. Dr. Jamea hosts the popular Love and Libido podcast and posts all over social media because I've been stalking you. I'm so excited to have you. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here with you today.
It's so fun. You're so calm. I was just saying, it's like you're just so calm. And like I'm like all over the place.
I try.
Okay, so start at the beginning for me and
Okay.
tell my listeners how this started, where you came from, what you're doing, and then we'll get into the.
Yeah, of course. So, I feel like a lot of people who I talk to, describe therapy as being kind of a second career for them. That was not the case for me. I knew pretty early on that I wanted to be in the mental health space. And when I was studying psychology in my undergraduate program, I took a human sexuality elective. And I just found that sexuality was such an interesting window into the psyche. I think you can learn so much about a person by asking questions about their sexuality. And it was also the first time I realized that that was even something you could specialize in within the field of psychology. And not only that, that there was a huge need for it, especially in Texas where I live, where, there's still so much taboo around sexuality. And so I really focused all of my, training and education in relationships and sex, and eventually opened my private practice and, had done a lot of public outreach and things like that over the years. And I'd gotten to a point in my career where I felt like I could help people with things like, erection issues, orgasm issues. I could help women overcome pain with intercourse, and I could help couples, improve desire. I would occasionally get the couple coming back just wanting more.
Right.
And they would
Just
always say things like, we just, it's better, but we just kind of want the intensity we felt in the early days. And I'd remind them of like the temporary neurochemical cocktail we all
Sure.
get in the honeymoon stage and how that's not sustainable. Or they'd say, I want sex to feel like it seems to in the movies. And I would remind them that it's just Hollywood. Those are paid actors, but I knew what they meant. So I started paying closer attention to the language my clients were using to describe the sex they wanted. And I realized they were using words, like effortless. I want to feel lost in the moment. I want the world around me to disappear. And I'm like, they're talking about a flow state. So for people listening who don't know what a flow state is, it is when we are engaged in activity in which we experience things like a loss of space and time, complete absorption, a sense of merger with whatever we're doing. And I was familiar with flow state, but not as it related to sex. So being, very evidence-based, I turned to the literature and I couldn't find anything out there that, there was not a single research paper that looked at the relationship between flow and sexual satisfaction. So long story short, I initiated my own research study and published my findings, and that kind of set the foundation for the book.
Okay, that's amazing. First of all, I just have to say, I loved my human sexuality classes. Loved them.
Yeah.
I'm older than you, but so I was like a TA for human sexuality 445, and I was like, I always knew I wanted to go into like what you're doing, but then I ended up being a DJ.
That's a lot of
So I'm
fun
like, you know
too.
what? No, I'm like, yours sounds like so much more fun. I just love that you talk about flow state and all of this great stuff. And also, I feel like when I'm listening to you, I'm like, oh my God, I've been there. Like, I think we can
Yeah.
all relate, right? I
Yeah,
have a really
totally.
hard time turning off my mind and do you think that's more of a female thing? Or is that like guys can just, hey, I'm always so interested.
It is more of a issue that women complain about for sure. And I think it's an issue that's gotten worse just in the last probably 10, 20 years. In fact, I found that it was a theme that came up over and over again with my female clients. And I started having some kind of theories as to why it had become so problematic. So I called one of my first ever sex therapy supervisors, Dr. Ruth Sherman, not Dr. Ruth Westheimer. This is different Dr. Ruth. And I called her specifically because at the time she was supervising me, which would have been in like 2008, 2009, she had retired from seeing clients and was just training therapists. And, this was around the time that like apps and smartphones kind of started to take over our
Yeah.
lives. And I said, she had, been working as a sex therapist in Houston for like 40 years prior to that. And it's like, is this an issue you remember your clients complaining of? And she said, she thought about it and she was like, not in the way you're describing. She said,
It's just different.
she said, we had women who would kind of become preoccupied with body image concerns or men who worried about getting an erection. But she said this like never ending to-do list and distraction that you're describing with your client. She said, I honestly don't really remember people complaining about that kind of thing. And, the more people I talk to, I think it's just, one, the mental load that women carry.
Definitely.
More and more women are in the workforce and both, we're talking heterosexual couples primarily here, both have full-time jobs. And in addition to that, women are the ones managing the house, managing the kids. It's, the third shift, the never ending kind of running to-do list that women have a hard time disconnecting from. So I think that's increased as a problem. And then technology,
Oh
we
my gosh,
are
100%.
my gosh, I mean, we are multitasking more than ever before because of smartphones. And what I tell my clients, like, you cannot expect to go from split attention all day long to the singular focus of sex and
Thank you.
expect
I'm
to
so
like
glad you said that
get into
because
your body.
I really feel like sometimes my partner, it's amazing. I love him, but like he just expects it like, "Oh, we can do this now. It's fine." I'm like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah.
Foreplay's an all day thing, honey. It's
Oh,
an
yeah.
all day thing,
For sure.
And
For
as
sure.
I get older, I'm like in my 50s and menopause and blah, blah, blah. I feel badly,
Yeah.
because I can't,
Yeah.
I'm not into it immediately like
Right.
I used to be. So I feel like
Right. Totally.
he kind of takes it like personally. And I'm like, oh, I hate that. I hate that.
But there's a lot that we can do to help disconnect from the mind and get into the body. I mean, a lot of people will say things like, oh, I just need to have like a glass of wine to kind of unwind from the day. And like, I get that. I mean, I enjoy a glass of wine every now and then too. But it doesn't really quiet the nervous system the way we need it to. And it's really not effective at quieting down the mind, So I'll tell women, as much as possible on a day you think you're going to have sex, try to slow down where you
Yeah.
can.
Take
Like
your
when
breath.
you're eating a meal, just eat the meal. If you're at the gym, just work out, like single task as much as possible. Just kind of be in touch with the five senses. That's what the whole sensuality chapter in my book is
Yeah,
about,
that's
is
good.
about re-inhabiting the body and getting in touch with the senses. And then before, it's maybe the evening, kids are in bed, whatever, you think you're going to have sex, take literally 30 seconds and just do some really deep diaphragmatic breathing, or sit with your back against your partner's back and just feel kind of the support of each other's body. It may sound silly, but it
No, I don't think it's silly. I think it's awesome.
literally takes 30 seconds to
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
that's it. That's
And I
it.
feel
But
like that's all I need. Like,
yeah,
I feel like I could be okay with that.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I have a
And yeah,
question for you.
go for it.
So I always tell my clients, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong because I'm not a sex therapist, but yeah, whatever. So, to schedule sex. How do you feel about scheduling sex?
Huge fan. Now,
Yeah, so happy.
here's my kind of rules around it.
Okay,
So
let me hear.
number one, I actually prefer the word plan over schedule. I
Yes,
mean,
that's great.
you could think we're like, arguing semantics here, but I feel like you plan a party, you plan a picnic, like you schedule a dentist appointment. Like, like it's just, I don't know, the word plan to me has a much more
I
positive
agree. I like it. I'm
connotation.
changing
So
it. That's
that's
exactly right.
number
That's
one.
awesome.
I remind people that when you were dating, you were planning it. You just
Yes,
didn't call it that, but like everyone knew what was going down at the end of the
that's
night. And
so
there
true.
was,
I never thought about it. Okay.
people don't think about it like that, but there was, you shaved all the things and you got dressed and, you had time to connect. So yes, you have been planning sex for, forever.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That's number two. Number three, I think it's important to think of it more like a plan B, a fallback plan as
Okay.
opposed to a plan A. What I
Yes.
mean by that is you're not closing yourself off
Right.
to, reconnecting at other times. And I think that in and of itself kind of takes some pressure off of like the time you have set aside. But, the time is there to connect if connection doesn't happen at other times during the week.
Right.
Number 3. Number 4, just because you plan when you're going to connect doesn't mean you have to plan everything you do during that time. Like plan the when, not the what. There
For
is
sure.
plenty of room for surprise and spontaneity and curiosity and all of those things within that time together. And then, finally, I remind people you can always cancel your plans, like if that time comes around and it is just like a hell no kind of day, like that's okay. You just, rearrange your schedule and maybe try to find some time the next day or in a couple days or whatever. So, yes. And as it relates to flow state, I mean, when we do pretty much anything else that has a propensity to put us into flow, we plan for it. We set aside the time, whether it's, painting a canvas or getting on a surfboard or going for a run or going to the golf course. Flow state stuff requires a bit of, planning and intention. And we've got to think of sex the same way.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. I totally agree. I think that a lot of times, and maybe I'm wrong, but it's kind of like we understand that as females, like we get that. But
Mm-hmm.
when you say something like some men just don't, they don't get it. I don't, it's just, does that make sense? Like, is it more of a like
Sure.
we just understand it more or we just feel like,
Well, it's twofold. Yes, I think there's that. I hear it kind of from both sides. Like a lot of women will complain about planning it because they feel like it puts too much pressure on
okay,
them. When
okay,
that's why I like give the list I just shared with you
yes,
and your
great.
listeners. Like, if you remember all of that, it shouldn't feel like a time for pressure.
It should be
And
exciting, kind of, I
also,
think. Like you
yeah, and
get excited about it.
exactly.
That's what
And
we
I
do.
think, I think that both men and women have been socialized to kind of decouple sex and love. Like women get into the headspace that this is something they're just doing for their partners or so that their partners can like get off. And
Yeah, right, right.
men, for both men and women, it should be seen as an opportunity to connect, not just physically, but emotionally. And men oftentimes don't even have the language to articulate that. So like they'll
Absolutely.
say, I want to have more sex, but what comes across or what women hear is that you just need to like have more orgasms or something. And but they don't even have the language to
Right.
express to women that no, it's because it's the ultimate expression of love and connection for me. And I
Yeah.
don't really know how to ask for that in other ways except through sex. And, and so I try to remind people of that as well. And I think kind of that reframe can really help couples see it as an opportunity that's not just sex in the physical sense. It's, emotional, relational,
Right.
personal, everything else.
Do you see this coming on like around a certain time in a marriage? Is it always like everyone's like, oh, it's a 7-year itch? I started, but do you see anything like statistically that kind of
Well, I mean, I think for sure most people notice a shift when the honeymoon stage wears off,
yes,
and that's
absolutely.
because the neurochemical high subsides and the rose-colored glasses come off and suddenly we have to move from this very passive intensity to active intensity and a lot of couples lack the tools and skill set to do that. And so, there's this sense of everything being effortless in the early days, but it's anything but. It just doesn't feel like effort because we're high the whole time. So, I
Our dopamine is
mean,
like racing. It's like, yeah, you're
exactly.
right. We're totally high.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that this is where a lot of couples struggle is they just lack the tools to do love as a verb, to
Oh,
create
I love that.
passion,
Love is a verb. Yeah.
and that's why I have the word cultivate in the title. So I think that's a shift for people. I think for sure when you've got little kids at home, it's just hard
Right.
times.
Yeah. I
You
tell my friends
know?
all the time, I'm like, it's the kids. They've
I
ruined
know.
everything for
And
me.
they
My whole
ruin
time.
everything. I know.
I'm like, all my friends who are married without kids, they love their life. They're so happy.
I know. Well, and it is one of those things. I mean, it takes a much bigger toll on women than it
It
does on
does.
men for a
Yeah.
lot of different reasons, just emotionally, physically, everything we put our bodies through, and kids at the end of the day, like they call for mom.
And still do. And
So
they're in college. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I just,
yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, and I get it. Like I practice what I preach. I've got a 4 and a 6-year-old at home right now. I mean, we are in the thick of
They're
it, and
babies.
They are, but we have like family quiet time every Saturday
So
afternoon, and
good.
they can sleep, they can sit in their room quietly, read a book, whatever. But like my husband and I will be in the bedroom for an hour.
There you go. Okay.
I
See,
mean,
I love it. I love that. I never did that.
ugh,
I think
yeah,
that's why I got divorced. I really do. I feel like
yeah,
we just put all of our life, all of it into our energy into the kids, and we
hmm
never reconnected.
right,
We never did. And he was like
yeah,
the best dad, and I was a great mom, but we were shitty husband and wives, to
yeah.
each other.
It's
It's just
hard.
really
It's
hard.
really hard. Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
for
look back
sure.
and I'm like, woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's my book. If I would have known,
Yeah,
like
but
talking to you. So do you think that people like what? I mean, I think personally, before people get engaged or get married, they should see you. They should go to talk to
yeah.
a they should have some kind of there's some kind of so that
I
they have
know.
the tools.
I wish people would do like pre-engagement counseling
We should
because
do
it's
it.
hard to
I'll
walk
set it
away
up. I'll
once
send
there's
my
a,
people. Yeah.
ring on the finger and wedding plans in the works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think I think a lot of couples think they kind of cover the big things like,
Right.
are we aligned
Sure.
religiously, politically,
Mhm.
similar value, the important things, but there's so much detail. I mean, I'm actually in the process of creating like a premarital counseling
Awesome.
online
Good.
course for people just
Great.
because I think there's so many questions that couples don't consider and think about. But what we have to remember is we can, think we're aligned 100%, but invariably, like life,
Yes.
things do not always go according to plan. We may change, our partners may change. And what I write in the book, I have a whole chapter on adaptability, and
Yeah, I
it's
loved it.
about how to navigate, because I think that's where a lot of couples don't have the tools or the skill set is to kind of I think we
Figure it
all
out.
forget we're on the same team and
Yeah.
we, start fighting against each other as opposed to with each other against the problem. And of course, it's going to take a toll on our intimate connection if,
Absolutely.
there's longstanding resentments and things like that.
Well, that was my issue. I was like, how can I be with this person after X, Y, or Z? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
just couldn't separate my
Right. Right.
brain from my body. And I was like,
Yeah, for
but do
sure.
you
I mean,
think
when there's too much hurt, it's hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think if couples come into you or they, let's say you're pre-engagement, whatever, if they have completely like, I don't know, different sexual whatever, or they just can't, or they say like the sex isn't great, is that like
Yeah.
a reason not to get married?
It's something to think about
I think
for
so too.
sure. I mean,
Yeah.
if there's a big incompatibility, and this is like, couples don't really ask the questions like, well, how important is sex to
Yeah,
you?
they don't.
Or
I never
if
did.
there is a different in preferences. I mean, that can be a big issue for people. And there's a huge link between sexual satisfaction and relationship satisfaction. So
Yes.
much so that sexual satisfaction is actually a stronger predictor of relationship
That's interesting.
satisfaction than the reverse.
Yeah.
They say, like, when sex is going well, it accounts for, like, 25% of our happiness, but when it's going poorly, it accounts for, like, 75% of
Really?
unhappiness. Yes.
I didn't know it was that high. That's
And
crazy.
this does not mean that you have to have a robust sexual sex life. I mean, there's nothing wrong with if both you and your partner are aligned and
That's
you're
yeah.
good with sex once a month, like, more power to you, but, when there's a big difference
That's where the problem
in
comes in.
what
Yeah.
you want and your partner wants, then that's gonna cause some problems. So
Yeah.
I do think that stuff is important to talk
Okay.
about
You
ahead of
heard it
time.
here, you guys. You heard it here. Okay. So here's my other question. I was stalking you, and
Mhm.
I love your reels. They're so good.
Oh, thanks.
And you did one 4 reasons why sex therapy might not work. Because I think people
Mhm.
are like, oh, we're going to go to sex therapy. And it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be. Why wouldn't it work? Like, what are the
It probably once a week, I get a call
what do
from
you?
someone saying, "I'd like to come see you because I have low desire," or "I'd like to come see you because I have erectile dysfunction." And my next question to them is, "Okay, let's schedule a couples appointment." They're like, "No, no, no. I'm the one with the problem," or "My partner doesn't think they need to come in." So when couples kind of identify one person in the relationship as being quote unquote the one with the problem that needs to go and get fixed and come
Yeah.
back, like, I don't know, the prognosis in my eyes just isn't as
Yeah.
good. Now, there are therapists out there who feel and believe strongly that change can happen through one person. And I think to an extent it can.
Sure.
But, the way I'm a systems approach kind of gal, and I always think, okay, yeah, let's say, one person has a history of trauma, for example, and
Right.
that's caused, yeah, I would probably work a bit more with that one person, but it's important for me as a therapist to understand the couple dynamic from the get-go and for the other person to be a part of the solution
Makes
and for
sense.
them to have a team approach. But, I just have not had the best luck when one person in the relationship is totally tapped out of
Okay.
therapy or uninterested in
Yeah.
participating. So that's always, and I tell people that on the phone, I'm like, look, I don't want to waste your time. I'm happy to see you, but I want you to come in with realistic expectations.
Right.
So I'll say
I
that.
think that's great.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a big issue for people. People will kind of put all their eggs in the therapy appointment meeting and not
Poor
do
thing.
any work in between sessions. And I'm kind of like, look, I can give you all the tools, but if you're not doing the stuff,
I relate like
in
100%.
between
Yeah.
sessions, like, it's just prognosis goes down again. Like or they'll say things like, I'm willing to do anything and I'll give them my list. And they just,
They're like,
let life get in the way.
oh,
They're
I'll
not
never
willing to
forget.
prioritize it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of reasons. Yeah.
I'll never forget. I went to I call my husband. My husband and we went to a sex therapist, and the guy said to us, okay, your homework is to just hold hands.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I was like, okay, no. I go, look, he doesn't, I'm going to swear on my own, but he doesn't fuck me. You're not getting paid. You don't get paid till he fucks me. I was like, that's it.
Guys, oh my God. That poor therapist.
Poor therapist was like, his mouth was on the floor. My husband was like, Jennifer. And I'm like, I just don't, holding hands. I got to do
Yeah.
more. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were
I
at that place where
know.
I was just like, so
Just
pissed,
tapped out. Yeah.
just tapped out. I'm
Yeah.
like, I am done.
I get that. Yeah.
Oh, it
It's
was awful.
hard.
It
And
was
yeah.
awful.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it is a matter of working through resentments. But, interestingly, and I write about this in the sensuality chapter, we have a lot of research to suggest that couples who do re-engage in some kind of physical touch, even when they are feeling disconnected, and it doesn't have to be sexual, it could just start with the hand holding or cuddling when you're watching TV, that sort of thing. They tend to be better conflict
I
resolution,
clearly was not there.
and yeah, exactly. And it can go a long ways in improving, relationship satisfaction, increasing desire, things like that. But a lot of people struggle to go from zero touch at all to jumping into bed with each other. And I
Yeah.
get that,
And I think also sometimes, like, I'm not a physical touch person. Like, I can't stand people in my space.
Uh,
And my partner is like so physical touch. So
yeah.
I'm like, he's sensory seeking.
Sensory.
I can't take him, like, you're in my
Yeah.
space. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
clearly it's my issue. But again, he just expects it. Like, we're just going to like, I'm like,
Mhm.
baby, no, I got to show,
Yeah. You
it's
gotta
just
kind of
so
ease
funny.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love
for
it.
sure.
This is like
For
the best
sure.
conversation. I think people have so many questions and
Yes.
they don't know who to talk to.
I
And
know. Well,
that's
and
why I
there's so
love
much
your book.
bad information out there too. I mean, you
Well,
get
yeah.
online and you're just going to find a little bit of everything. So, this book, it was really important for me that it was evidence-based. And so, there's a ton of research in there, but I'm not like in academia. I am just a clinician. And so it's also important to me that I break it down in a way that makes sense, that's going to make sense to me. And
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
people who aren't in the field at all. So it's very easy to read and it's all, brought to
It
life
was good.
through client stories
I
and my
loved that part
research.
of
Like
it. That was awesome.
sometimes when I'm writing it, I had like little moments where I'm like, ooh, this kind of feels like I'm writing a novel more than like a self-help book because the client stories were so important to me
So
to transcribe and,
I think that's great. I think it's good
yeah,
that we get examples
yeah,
throughout the book
for sure.
because
For sure.
it's more relatable.
Right.
It
Right.
makes me feel like, oh, you
Exactly.
know what? I'm not the only one that feels X, Y, or Z, or,
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
great. It's great.
Precisely. Yeah.
Okay. Before I can't let you go quite yet. I have one more question. Do you mind?
Shoot. Yeah,
Okay.
not at all.
Here's another question. Deepen emotional, physical. Okay. How do you deepen your emotional and physical connection? It says one of your reels in less than 30 days.
Well, I created this like 30-day intimacy
Great,
challenge.
great, great, great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool,
So
cool.
it's on the website and right now it's free with book purchase. So you can go purchase
Look
the
at
book.
that. Look at the segue I just did.
I know, any format, doesn't matter if it's audio, Kindle, hardcover. And then you can just go to my website, emilyjamea.com, put in your receipt number, your email address, and you get access to that, the 30-day intimacy challenge, plus like the intimacy discussion deck, which is like a deck of 52 cards with questions, to kind of help enhance intimacy, which is really fun. You get
That is
full
really fun.
access.
We like that. We like that. We like
Yeah,
to
you
do the
get full
cards.
access to my online workshop, which is like a 6-week program, all based on the book. More exercises are there than made it into the book. So there's like nearly $300 worth of free giveaways. So
You
it's
get all
a good
that
deal.
just if you order the book.
Just order the book.
Okay,
That's
y'all,
it.
come on now.
I know.
That
I
is
know.
just
It's like
silly.
a no-brainer.
I mean, hello. That's like, give me a break. And the book is
Yeah.
fantastic. It was really,
Thank
really good. I
you.
love it.
Thank
And I
you
don't
so
say,
much.
typically I don't, whatever, but this was good.
Yeah.
It was good. It was really
Thanks.
good. I
It's my
loved it.
third baby, honestly. So
It's your third.
my heart and
Yeah,
soul
you
is in
said
that
it
book.
took a long time to write.
It did. Yes,
Yeah, I
it did.
know.
Well,
I know.
actually, it's funny. It took a long time to, kind of getting an agent and getting the book deal. I mean, that's
I
a
know.
whole
I
process.
know.
But
Trust me.
once I started writing, I mean, it just poured out. And my editor
it.
was like, I sent her the first draft and she's like, okay, is this chapter 1? And I'm like, no, this is like first draft of the book. And she's like, Emily, it's been like 2 months. And I'm like,
That's how
I
I
know.
am too. I wrote my book so
Yeah.
quickly. People were like,
My
what?
God.
You have another
Yeah.
book? I'm like, it just comes out of me.
I
It's like,
know.
I know.
Exactly.
I get it.
So,
I get it.
yeah.
Okay, Dr. Emily, where can everybody find you? And your website is the easiest way.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. My website is emilyjamea.com.
Yeah.
I'm on all the social media channels at Dr. Emily Jamea. And the podcast is
Yes,
Love and
listen to your
Libido. So
podcast.
if you like
Yes.
podcasts, be sure to check that out.
Love and Libido. I'm going to check it out. I didn't know that you had a podcast too.
Yeah,
I was like, this girl has it all.
I mean,
I'm just
I
very
am
impressed.
trying to do it all.
I know, right? I know. I feel like,
But it's fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. So it
I know.
doesn't feel like work.
That's exactly right. Oh my gosh. Well, I loved having you. Do you have
Thank
anything
you,
like
Jennifer.
a tidbit of something that before you go, you want to tell my listeners that
Just
I know, put you on the spot.
No, I just would tell people don't give up. I mean,
Oh.
I have worked with couples who have, gone their whole marriages never talking about their likes and dislikes, or they have long-standing resentments, or they're, been sexually disconnected for years. And, all of the tools that I give to them are in this book. And, I love what I do because it's so fulfilling to help people breathe life back into their relationships. So
I wish I would have had you the first time around, but you know what? I mean, I'll tell you,
Here
it's
we
awesome.
are.
Here we are. We've met again. I love it. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Emily, for being here.
Thanks,
I appreciate
Jennifer.
you so much.
My pleasure.
Listeners, this was a great one. So obviously you're going to be rewinding and taking notes and get out your pens and whatever, or just go to Dr. Emily's website and get everything. The book, here it is. I have it. It was fantastic. And that's it. Do something great for yourself today and connect with your partner. That's all I have to say. Connect with your partner. Okay, y'all. And when I leave, I always say peace, love, and so much truth. Have a good day, guys.